My name is Joey Garcia. I'm a first degree black belt under Scott Savage. Trained here in Los Banos, and been here ever since, from beginning to end, white belt to black belt with Professor Savage. So we have our academy. It's called Scott Savage Brazilian Jiu Jitsu Academy. It's located here in Los Banos.
I'm Castros full service. What am I saying? Check. I'd like to say thank you to our sponsor, Castros Pool Service and Repair. Phone number 209-675-5418. I am Castros Pool Service and Repair. Thanks. The old grappler just awarded my blue belt. I've been coaching wrestling for about 14 years now. When I get in there, it is like everything just goes away. Like you're in there coaching on the mat for jiu-jitsu. It's a way of therapy. The old grappler.
So when did you start this journey?
You know, everybody has a funny story. Everybody's talking about they started off with UFC and all that stuff, and honestly, mine's no different. I mean, I think we all have an interest in grappling, and something drew us to it. For me, it was a little bit of looking for some kind of like a fitness and a health aspect of it. You know, I was partying a lot when I was in my younger, my early 20s, my mid 20s, and it just took its toll on me. I started to, I also actually was commuting a lot at this time, driving back and forth from here to like Manteca or Lathrop or something every day, man. And I was just snacking on food in the car, just trying to keep myself busy. And it just started to gain a little weight, and I just wasn't feeling myself anymore. So I was going to my buddy's house, actually, Mitchell Torres. We were just talking about him a little bit ago. He really like introduced me to grappling, and he really introduced me into just the art of what it is and the fundamentals. And we would go to his house, we'd watch UFC, and we'd have some beers, and we'd hang out. And in his garage, in his mats, he had mats and like focus mitts and gloves and punching bag and all that. So we'd go out there, and he would show us some things. Like he'd show us, this is how you do, some striking. This is how you do some kicks. This is how you do like some basic wrestling, some basic grappling. And one thing led to another. We would go to his house. It was like a pattern. We'd go there, have some beers, go in the garage, and mess around. It's like wrestle, right? And it actually became a thing. We started calling it drunk jitsu, because we was like, it was the funniest thing, man. Funniest thing. Looking back on that, and it was just like probably one of the dumbest things, but also one of the best things, because when you get, you've been inebriated, you're having too many drinks, and you don't know what the hell's going on. You're just messing around. So many times we probably could have been injured, but man, luckily, thank God, nobody was hurt, right?
Right.
So here I am, a little overweight, and I'm very interested in like UFC and all that stuff. And then comes along Mitchell. We start doing that repetitiously, and sure enough, he has more experience just because he was kind of like, he was an amateur fighter, and he knew the ropes, right? He had been training a little bit, and he would just mop us up, man. He would just take care of us, just out wrestle us, out grapple us, and everything. And so I started to like grow that little hunger, like, damn, like I really want to get better at this.
Yeah.
So I said, man, Mitchell, do you think we could maybe do this outside of, drunk jitsu? Can we kind of come over and learn a little bit? And he was commuting, I was commuting, and he had a couple other guys. But once or twice a week, I'd get to go to his house, and he would show us some stuff, and he would show us some basics. Like, this is side control, this is mount, this is back control, like the basics, And it just kind of went from there. I probably spent maybe off and on, 6 months with him, depending on our schedules. And we'd come in and do that. And around the same time, I stopped commuting work. And then around that time, I got a job here locally with the city of Los Banos. So here I am. I'm local. I'm in Los Banos now. I'm kind of like starting to feel like I'm getting in shape because I'm doing this thing with Mitchell. The hunger of like grappling and trying to learn more. And I'm not even kidding you. I didn't go seek jiu-jitsu. It kind of just fell on my lap, because I come across my file, my computer, with some emails going by, and I saw a recreational flyer that said Scott Savage Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and I was just like, wow, like this is exactly what I've been looking for. It was more routine. It was, it was taught by a higher belt, and there was no looking back. I went there, went to the class. There was really nobody there. It was like me, Scott, and I think his kids, you know, and it was a very, very family feel, and just started training with him, and yeah, I loved it.
So this is like year what around?
Man. I want to say like 2008, something like that. I would say like late 2007 is when I started to kind of like work with Mitchell, and then around 2008 is probably when I started going with Scott. And
so you're like 15 years into this journey.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
Yeah, about that.
So when you started, when you first walked into Scott's, is this when he was still in the little community center by the junior high?
Yes, yeah. So when I first met Professor Savage, you know, very like unassuming person, super chill demeanor, just you know, with the glasses, and we always joke around that he doesn't really look like he could just like rip your arms off, but he totally can, you know. And like you ask him what his background and he's like, well, I do HR and I do like safety and all that stuff. So he's super stand up guy. I really enjoy learning from him, but he just doesn't look like, you know, a fighter, or he doesn't look like a grappler so much. He doesn't even have cauliflower ear. You know, he avoided that for so long. And he also did wrestling in high school, football. So he was always an athlete. And when I met him, I believe he was a second or third degree brown belt. In fact, so he wasn't really even black belt yet.
Okay.
And so, but to me, I mean, I was a beginner white belt. I had no clue what I'm doing. Learning from him was a privilege, because to me it was just like, and maybe I didn't realize it at the time, because me as a white belt coming into a brand new thing, I really didn't fully understand like the levels of the levels to jiu-jitsu and the hierarchy of it, like meaning like wow, he's like a really high level, you know, brown belt, or it just didn't dawn on me. I just figured I'm just learning from this guy named Scott, you know, and it was like that. And you know, over the years we just started developing a super good relationship, and I mean, I was just hooked immediately. I started training with him, literally getting my ass beat like all the time, you know, all the time. He did it out of love. Like he was like very good at it. He was a little heavier than me, or always a lot heavier than me actually, and real strong, you know. But he didn't like
deceptively strong.
Yes, and he was never, you know, arrogant about it, right? He was always very like always a teaching moment, you know, and it just. I mean, we're talking like multiple years before I can get something on him, you know, multiple. and what a humbling experience that is, you know?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. That's good to have someone like that to work with, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
So before jiu-jitsu, any other type of martial arts?
No, man.
Sports?
Drunk jitsu.
So what's the rules of drunk jitsu?
You know what? You're gonna laugh. But we legit had rules. We had rules. It was like a 3-beer minimum, dude. Because it wasn't fair if you had more beers and the other guy didn't. I mean, come on. You gotta make it fair. So yeah, we had a lot of fun with that. It was crazy times. You talk to anybody from that era of my life at that time, and I had the most fun with that. I learned the most. I'd come home all beat up, like what happened? Well, I didn't try home, obviously, but you know, come home at some point and like, you know, oh, we did. I was like sweaty. You know, like what happened? I got into a fight. No, you didn't. We were doing drunk jitsu, but it was fun, man. It was crazy. But like I said, everybody has that funny story, and that's kind of how mine was. To summarize it, it was like health, fitness. Just got into it because of MMA, and Mitchell really kind of built that ground floor, and then the drunk jitsu was just like a funny part of it. But then I got really serious with it, you know, soon after that, really serious with it. And I have a very addictive personality. I think, and I talk to a lot of different like martial artists and people in class and whatever, and even people who like. I know I recently spoke to somebody who I know is a blue belt in jiu-jitsu, and I jokingly told him, I said, "Dude, you're one of the most consistent guys I know." And he's like, he's like, oh. You know, and I'm like, I'm totally just messing with you, but I'm trying to like encourage him to come back. And then we start talking about it, and he's like, man, I'm kind of like a perfectionist, you know, like I want to be like all in on it. And I don't want to like half-ass it. And I feel you, dude. I'm 100% there. I get it. I said, I'm the same way. Like I get into things and I do things all in. Like I don't half-ass anything. I put all my passion and my energy into that thing I do.
Right.
And for many, many years, that was me in jiu-jitsu, and it still is. Like I still go to class like it's a brand new class, like it's fun, it's exciting, and who's gonna be there, and who do you get to roll with, and what challenges are gonna be there, for that person on that day. But man, I got into it so bad that like, I joke to myself now, like in retrospect, that I was like a Bible thumper. Like go around telling people like, you got to do jujitsu. The best thing you could ever do in your life.
Knocking
No,
on
you go
doors.
door to door. Hi, have you thought about doing jujitsu today? Now, and because I just saw how beneficial it was, like mentally and like physically, and man, it was like a not to be cliche, but it was a change in my life it was a positive change, and I wanted to share that with everybody. And
Right.
And then there's just all the cool people you meet, the camaraderie you build with everybody. And I've yet to meet like a douche, maybe like one or two, like we talked about one time,
Yeah.
maybe one or two. Honestly though, everybody's pretty chill.
Yeah.
Really nice.
I think that's one of the biggest attributes of jiu-jitsu is the community.
Yeah.
Right. Like I don't know how many different gyms I've gone to now. I'm still new. But I've gone to more than a couple handfuls of gyms, and everyone's been just, yeah, come on in, sign the waiver, let's
totally.
roll.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, and I luckily I've had the opportunity to train in like a lot of different places, and I've trained in like all around, not all around America, but like mostly around California and like the Western states and everything. I have some goals, I want to train with some people, and one of them is Dracolino out of Texas, and one of them, there's I've always wanted to train with like Marcelo Garcia. I mean, I know he's right now he's going through some cancer bouts, but that was one of my dreams, was to go out to New York and train with him. Now he's in Hawaii, so I'm like, yeah, I can go to Hawaii and go train with him. It's one of those things, and I've always been with open arms. Everybody is very willing to just accept you in and train with you and learn from you, and you learn from them. And I haven't really run into anybody that's given me any problems. I actually was really lucky. My wife said that I could go to Brazil and train, and I was like, wow, this is awesome. So I took a trip out to Brazil. I met a friend of mine who was staying there for like 6 months. And he was staying with one of the coaches from a school. That school was Fernando Terrere's school. So it was located in the Contagalo favela, and like legit like in it. You think of Brazil and you think of all the beautiful like parades and like all the cool beaches and everything.
Yeah.
But I was just like in the ghetto,
Yeah, in the favelas.
And I tell you what, it was probably one of my favorite experiences, because like I really came away from that experience being really grateful for what I have, because over there is just like, it's just poverty.
Right.
You experience like the lowest forms of poverty, which was, I never experienced that before in my life. I didn't realize how well off I was, how many things I had, and going there and training with these like young, hungry athletes. These guys are like white belts and blue belts and all the way up to black belts. And the class was amazing. They all welcomed me in like a family member.
What belt were you when?
I was a brown belt.
Okay.
Yeah, I was a brown belt. So this was recent, maybe like I would say like within 6 years or so. So I feel like it's recent for me. And in terms of like life, it wasn't too long ago. And it was awesome, man. Like you just realize like what you have and what they don't have. And the biggest takeaway I got from that was these guys, they treated jiu-jitsu not like a hobby leisure sport like we did, right? They're very serious about it. It's almost like their national sport, like other than soccer. It's like that's what they do. You can take this skill and you can learn it and perfect it and get very good at it and maybe go win some big competitions. You could take your name and your experience on the road. You could get yourself out of the favela, out of the ghetto, out of Brazil, and take yourself to another part of the world.
Right.
Maybe it's Europe, maybe it's America, who knows? And then you can really turn yourself into a business. You can actually really produce from that. So
it's crazy that you say that, because I watched a documentary on Tynan not that long ago.
Oh yeah, the sacrifices that his family made. That. I know.
It's crazy because like he was like in Brazil doing all that.
He's legitimately like the talent that I ran into over there, and I kid you not. blue belts and purple belts, and I have no ego because I love jiu-jitsu so much. I love it. I love the art of it. I was getting robbed and tapped out by purple belts and blue belts. Young 16, 17-year-olds just, I don't want to say the word juiced because they're not juiced. Like they're not in the wrong way. And what I mean is that their energy flowing through them was so good. They were on fire, dude. And of course, maybe when they see an outsider, I wasn't the only. It was almost an international little spot. Like I met somebody from Finland, somebody from Germany, somebody from like the Netherlands. You meet a lot of different people,
right?
And it is a big language barrier. Not everybody can speak Portuguese, and you know, but we all got along. We made it all work. But you go there and you see so many different things, and you see these young guys just like super hungry, man, just taking people out, and it was cool. It was super cool. It was very humbling, you know. And I was adjusting to the weather, so I'm making excuses because I got my ass beat out there. But it was so fun, man. It was so fun. but then I matched up with a brown belt. He's about my size, about my age. And him and I went at it, and that was, to me, that was my real measure of like, oh, okay, I can do this. I'm good, because it's too hard. You can't measure yourself against those young guys.
No,
you know, at my age, and you know, like, what's the point? Like, you're not supposed to compare yourself. You know, you have a good roll, you have a good roll. Like, give them their props. You know, if they beat you, they beat you. If you beat them, good. Just move on. Like, you don't have to be all like, it's not a big deal. You know, I'm like the most easygoing person ever.
So how long were you there in Brazil for?
10 days. Yeah, about 10 days. It was fun. You know, the routine is like much calmer than out here. I mean, obviously I wasn't working. I didn't go to my job or anything, but I would wake up. The routine was this. We'd wake up, eat some breakfast, and go train. Come home, shower, go to the beach, have some beers, come back, shower, go train, come home, eat, and then shower and go back and repeat. It was like basically the life of like somebody who just lived for jiu-jitsu. Like that was the only thing they had to do. And the guy that I stayed with, Julio Noguera, was our host. You know, he was like super cool. He would make us like super good like home cooked meals that I don't think you could get anywhere else in Brazil. Like the traditional like feijão, or like the different little like foods that they make that you see on TV. It's like I was like getting that experience.
Oh, okay.
And it was cool, man. Like his house was the only house in the whole area that had like a washing machine. So he'd get a bunch of visitors from around his neighborhood. They'd pay him a little cash, and then he would like, they would wash their clothes. They'd do the laundry. And then everything was on top to dry it with like, you know, clothesline and everything.
Yeah.
So I really felt like I was like put back in time, and like it's just a whole nother experience. That was dope. It was dope. I don't think I'd go there again though, because I almost got robbed. I almost got mugged on the beach. You know, like,
what?
Yeah. Legit, dude. Legit. It was funny, man.
What the hell?
And I was on.
And you were with people?
I was with my jiu-jitsu friends all together. We're on the beach, and you'll know the names of the beaches. Like there's Copacabana, and then there's Ipanema Beach. They kind of like connect like this. And there's a center, and there's that one and this one, right? Well, we were on Copacabana Beach, and I was like, all I had with me was my phone and my shorts, my board shorts, and I just like walking on the. Well, before I left, they're like, I said, I'm gonna go take a little walk, and they're like, they told me like, be careful, bro, just be careful. But in Portuguese, you know, they're like, it kind of sounds like Spanish, right? So, mucho cuidado, right? Mucho cuidado, whatever. And I'm starting to walk, and midday, like 3:00 or something. And I have my phone. So I have my phone like this. I open it, and I start like recording the beach and like the water, and just like, man, it's nice, dude. Like, I can't believe I'm here. And so I have my phone here in my hand, right? I close it, and before I know it, there's like a group of people coming towards me, like 5 or 6 young guys, probably anywhere from say 16 to 20 or something. And they're all coming towards me like a barricade, and I can't get through them. So I get real close to them. And right away, somebody from like this side comes to me and starts yelling in my ear in Portuguese, like very aggressively, like saying something. And I'm like, well, I don't speak Portuguese. I don't know. I can't help you. But he was distracting me over here. And somebody from the group came over here and tried to snatch my phone out of my hand. So it was just like a tactic.
Yeah.
You know, like they distract you so you look, and then they snatch your phone. And I was like, dude, very organized, you know, like they know what they're doing. But I don't think they realize that, like, that was my life, dude. My phone was my itinerary for like my airfare, like my flight. I needed it. I was like, I can't be stuck in Brazil. Like, what the hell am I gonna do? So when they went to go grab it, I just had the death grip of like on that phone, and he couldn't get it out of my hand, and he tried a couple of times, and I remember two things I learned was from my uncle. He said, if you ever get in a fight and you know you can't beat them, he goes, all you gotta do is act a little more crazy than them. Oh man, props to my Uncle Bob for that advice. And what happened at that point was I legitimately challenged all of them, and I started to yell back, and I'm like, and I think in Brazilian Portuguese there's a word you can say. It's like porra. It's not paro like in stop like in jiu-jitsu. I think porra, I hope I'm saying it right, means like F off,
Mm-hmm.
or like what the hell, right?
Mm-hmm.
And if you say it loud enough and you say it with enough, conviction, sure enough, they were like, oh shit, this dude is not gonna get up his phone, and he's down to like scrap.
Yeah.
And so I just pushed through, and then they went. My adrenaline's going through my body because I felt like I was about to get into a fight with like 5 guys. I turn around, I walk back to my little group, and they're like, and I'm like, man, I almost got mugged. They're like, no way. So I told them the story. They're like, you want to go find him? I'm like, no. Let's go find him. I'm not gonna I don't want to go to jail. I do not want to go to jail in Brazil. So yeah, that was a crazy story, And so Brazil is wild. If you go, I recommend to stay in the hotels that are like kind of more for the tourists.
Right.
Like that's what I would do. But I don't know. It's crazy. It was fun.
It's crazy because like touching on that, like I look at places that I want to go, and then you hear all the bad shit, and you're like, maybe I don't want to go there. Like, and then like you saying that, I'm like, fuck it, I ain't going to Brazil.
I mean, like I said, they have like areas that are sort of like hotels, and then they kind of cordon off like a beach for the tourists. And they do this because the country needs tourism money, and if you go outside of that scope of that touristy area, you're going to run into problems.
Mm-hmm.
And but luckily though, with us, I did have I had an in with somebody. There was another moment, kind of funny story. We went after we trained and we ate dinner. We went to a place called, I think it was called Lapa, it's a huge outdoor party, like legit, like 2 streets full of people, just block party, hanging out, music, food, all that stuff. And it was like past midnight when we're coming back, we're walking back, and the favelas, the way they're designed is that it starts off with the ground, and then they build up this like crevice of a hill, right? You've probably seen on TV.
Yeah.
Everybody's seen on TV. They build up, and I kid you not, towards the top, there's level to it, and towards the very top apparently is where, and I could be embellishing because I don't know for a fact. I didn't go and find out, but they usually say that at the top is like where you have the controllers of the favelas. Like maybe there's like some people who run drugs, or they run different schemes right throughout the community. Well, I didn't really believe that until like when we came back. There's an elevator. You go to the bottom, and an elevator goes up, and then there's this catwalk that takes you to like the center of the favela, and from there. Where I was staying was a couple levels up, right? So we would go up the elevator, go across the catwalk, walk a few layers up, and boom, you're at the house. Mm-hmm. Well, the elevator shuts down at midnight because they just shut it down. They're like, and this is all controlled by the people in the favela. It's not like a city thing. It's just they run it. And sure enough, we're coming home after hanging out, and me and my buddy Art cruising up and come up to this like staircase because we had to go up the stairs now. And starting at the bottom, it's like a video game. You got to go through the bosses and shit, to where you're staying. And we go, and man, sure enough, there's 2 guys just posted. And they have guns out. They're flashing their guns because they want you to know, like, this is our territory. And who are you? And why are you coming this way?
Right.
And so we go up, and they start yelling at us, telling us, like, but again, the Portuguese sounds a lot like Spanish. So they were saying something in Portuguese, like lift up your shirt. Mm-hmm. Because I heard the word camisa, like camisa, whatever. I heard that a few times, and I said, oh, they want to know if we have weapons on us. So here I am in Rio de Janeiro getting swatted down by, fucking favela cops. I don't know who they are, and so I lift my shirt, and they're like with their guns, and I'm like, I have no weapons, and my buddy has no weapons. And so then we start talking to like, well, we're staying up there. Like, who are we staying with? And we said, we're staying with Julio Noguera, and we're training jiu-jitsu at Fernando Terredes. But then as soon as we said that, they were like, oh, you're our buddies now. Let's go. You're fine. Come on up. You guys want some weed? I'm like, no, I don't want no weed. So it was like I had an in because of that, man. But if you imagine you were a tourist and imagine experiencing that, like I don't know how that would
Just
end.
getting off.
I don't know how that would end it.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, I mean, you probably would've got killed, but you know, you just keep moving.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was wild times. But again, like I said, I wouldn't do it again in that way. I would go again if I could stay in a hotel, you know, and just stay there. But
So like the touristy area in relation to the favelas where you were, like how far apart was that?
Not very far. Like if you could look at it from like a map, right? You have your ocean, you had the beach, you had a street, you had hotels on the ocean or on the beach, and then you had streets that go up. And the streets that go up, the little maybe like a half mile up, you have the favela.
Oh, okay.
So it's not that far, but it's separate enough where you could once you start at the bottom or in the elevator of the favela, then you're in it. Like they have their own little ecosystem in there. They have like all the services you need. Maybe there's like little restaurants. People turn their little houses into restaurants. And like another place I ate at was like, oh, they're like, let's go have dinner or let's go have lunch. All right, cool. Well, where are we going? I figure we're gonna leave the favela. We're gonna go into the town closer to the beach and we're gonna find a restaurant. But no, we stayed in the favela. We walk a few layers up or down, and you go to somebody's house, and you go in the house, and they have their house set up like a restaurant. It's like their living room or their dining room, and you know you eat. They make bomb ass food, really inexpensive because the conversion rate was pretty good. And you know, I mean, anybody who's watching this podcast has been to Brazil, they know that like if you go with like $1,000, you're probably living pretty damn good because the conversion rate's so good. So a lot of times I was buying lunch for like everybody because they thought I was rich. They thought I was like rich, and I wasn't. And I just, it was nice to like, it was good. I felt good about just maybe giving them a little something they didn't have before. Buy their lunches. Who knows? I just typically like that. But it was good times. It was good times.
That's cool. Yeah. That's a cool story.
Yeah, it's fun.
So going back to your jiu-jitsu, like the coming up through the ranks, did you ever compete?
Yeah, I did. I competed at white belt, competed at blue belt, and I competed at purple belt. I skipped my brown belt altogether, and then I competed once at black belt. And my experience with competition is like I would say it's a very, very good story if you are the person who needs to know about perseverance, because I've always been a better instructor than I was a competitor, and I can explain things very well. I can coach people from the sideline through tough positions. I'm a lot of my jiu-jitsu is like very like I'm a thinker, I'm like I'm not just like the 0 to 100 guy. Like there's different types. You're gonna run into all sorts of different types of people who grapple. Some people are the thinkers, and I think that the thing about the thinkers is that they tend to be a little bit late sometimes. So if you go with somebody who's 0 to 100, you got that 100 guy going against the thinker, then sometimes the 100 guy is gonna just demolish the thinker because the thinker's like, oh, okay, like I see the lapel, I should teach my own class at purple. And I had to study more because not only was I teaching it, I had to know it, right? I had to know, just like you're coaching wrestling, you have to know what you're talking about. And then you have to explain it different ways to different people. So you're thinking about it from like, okay, I'm gonna show Jose this move, but how will it benefit him? And the way he thinks about it from his perspective. And now I'm going to go teach, so-and-so, how can I explain it to them so they can understand it? Right. I know I understand it, but how could I explain it from their points of views? So I think because of that, like it really increased my my knowledge. Like I felt like it made me a lot better than I learned quicker. So yeah, sure enough, man, I get out there, I'm at US Open. And I remember my only goal in US Open, I said, look, I had low expectations for myself because I'm like, I don't even think I'm gonna win, man. Like I didn't think I was gonna win. So I said, let me just be the first guy to like jump guard or pull guard. and put him in my guard. I was like, let me just put him in my guard. Like, let me start there. Because I had a lot of bad starts before. I was hesitant, the thinker. I didn't come from a wrestling background. So I was like, getting taken down or getting double legged. I was like, shit, I'm just getting smashed. So I said, let me just jump guard. Let me pull guard. Well, I grabbed some collar, grabbed sleeve, been working on this move and been thinking about it. And I went out there, and because I trained it so much, I did it so quick. And I hit that mark, and I was like, dude, I got it. Like I felt like something turned. I hit that one single thing I was happy to get. It's like that goal was met, and I'm like, okay, now I feel like I can go more. And went through the business and got him into a triangle, and the guy was pretty tough. And then I kind of came out and was able to armbar him from the triangle, like a triangle armbar. Got up, opened my sweater, my gi a little bit. Fucking breathe, dude. Like, dude, like all these people that I'm like coaching and all these, these students that I'm telling them, you could do this, you could do this, you could do this. And finally I did it.
Right.
And I remember that also too. I remember, Professor and also Professor Art, everybody's elated, just excited. Then I went on and I beat my second guy. And they're like, wow, dude, like Joey's coming out of his shell now.
Yeah.
That was fun. And then I went and trained and competed at Master Worlds, and I beat my first guy with the triangle. So I had all those fights. I knew I could do it. I was subbing him. And then the second guy I went against, I had him in a triangle, but I just blew out my legs. Got too tired, and he passed my guard, beat me. So that was it. And then I just took a long ass break. I'm like, I'm one. I'm good. I'm good. I don't need to compete anymore. Now it was good. And I don't think competition is for everybody. It's not for every person. And I encourage it because it's a good way to test yourself. But
yeah, that's how I look at it. Like, if I'm not able to test what we're doing, and I think I talked about this in the last podcast, if I'm not able to test what I'm doing, how do I know it's going to work?
Right.
Like, we're in the dojo training, and we're kind of at a drilling pace, right? Like, making sure that we get all the angles to get where we're supposed to be, right? And then you go into a live situation in your dojo. Well, everybody's just finished training this. Everybody knows what we're doing, right? So it's not the easiest place to hit those submissions per se,
yeah,
right?
everybody's aware, right?
So when you open mat's a good opportunity to try stuff, right? But in competition, those open mat, if you go enough, those guys kind of see what your game is, right? And it goes both ways, right? Like, but in a competition, if you've never competed against that person, you need to play your game and see if it works, right? And if it doesn't, then okay, go back to the drawing board and see why or what you can do different, right? But like one guy I knew, this is many moons ago when I trained karate. The guy was like a belt above me, and at the bar, I'd gotten a bar fight, came back to the gym, and like, he's like, none of that shit worked. None of that shit worked. I got my ass beat. I'm like, what?
Tai Chi isn't it?
and after that, like, I don't even think he lasted another month after, like, he got in the fight. He was gone for like a week. He came back. He still had bruising on his face, and him and I talked about it, and he's like, yeah, this shit didn't work, man. So if at the end of the day, like, most of what we're doing is self-defense, right? Some sort of self-defense to protect yourself, right? And if you can't test it in a competition or even in an open mat, like, open mat's fairly good to try your stuff, to try your game. But if you can't test it, then how do you know in the time that you need it, are you going to be able to perform that,
Yeah.
And I say perform, but are you going to be able to execute
Yeah, you're
stuff?
right. The one thing too that it's interesting you brought that up because I love to cross train and I do like open mats and a lot of times your holes are exploited in terms of like what you know and you don't know
Yeah.
as well as the other people, right? Because it's two different people. So if you go often enough, they begin to learn your game and you learn their game and you kind of know what they're about. But sometimes you don't know at all, and they're like me. Maybe you run to that guy who's just like his thing is ankle locks, and you're just a little weak in that area, and you put your foot in the right spot and he gets you. Boom. Okay, cool. Like that's his game, and you learn from that point and you go forward. Um, you know what? I always liken jujitsu to a little bit of like a choreographed, like chaotic but controlled situation. Okay, so a lot of times um, when we're trained, white, blue, purple, brown, black, there's always like like the initial attack, the initial grip, the initial whatever it is, and then the other person has a set of responses, and some of the if you look at it like a graph, say response 1 to 5, 1 is let's say 3 in the middle is like probably your go-to response. Like, okay, so I grab your sleeve, you grab my sleeve. That's probably like a 3. And then you got like the 2 and a 4 and a 5 and a 1, and it fans out. And these ones are a little more risky, but you have a set of responses. And they're almost always going to be like a certain set. Okay, so if I grab your collar, you're most likely going to posture. You're going to grab 2 hands. You're going to break a grip or whatever. Those are your most common things. If I grab you in a I get your back. Okay, what are your first things you're going to do? Protect your neck. Try to peel off a hook. Scoot your butt down. There's certain things. We know these things because we're trained, right? We're trained. My favorite thing in the world is when you start running into like a 6-month white belt, because a 6-month white belt doesn't know any of those things. They know some,
right?
But they don't have that full breadth of like responses. And so I feel like I learn a lot from white belts because you grab a grip, and what do? They try to run away. They do like they don't do response 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. They're doing like something so different. Or you grab an arm and they're not doing like little shrimp moves to escape their hip. They're not holding the defenses that you're used to. They give you something completely out of the playbook.
Right.
And so it's like they're not indoctrinated into that choreography of what jiu-jitsu is. And it's like, I do this, you do that. Okay, you got that. Now I'm going to do this. And then now it's like this boom, boom. It's like this dance, boom, boom, boom. And whoever can do that dance the best and whoever can outwin is going to win. But a white belt just gives you something so different every single time. And I run into, really, really athletic white belts and young blue belts who they have a whole nother like set of like responses. And I feel like it's fun to roll with them because they're wild, they're a little spazzy and stuff like that. And I don't know, some people like some black belts will shy away from it and say, I don't want to roll with that guy. I'm like, just why not? Like, give that guy an opportunity. Like, right. I feel like I'm still that white belt. Rolling with the black belt was always a privilege. Yeah. And if you're a white belt out there and we're at an open mat, you ask me to roll, I'm definitely gonna roll. I'm not gonna be offended. Oh, you can't ask me. Like, nah, man. Like,
that's happened to me.
I'm not truly about that. Like, I get it. And I'm not about that. Like, I'm too good for you. And like, dude, we're all the same. We just have a different belt at the moment.
Yeah. The way I look at it, like the open mat, I want to, whatever belt I am, I want to roll. Like I'm blue belt, right? I'll roll with all the white belts. I don't care.
Right.
But I want to roll with the purples, the browns, the blue, the blacks.
Yeah. You want to give yourself you really want to test it. You want to know what's up.
It just gives me more perspective of where I am.
Right.
But you can't go in and smash everybody and think you're at this level if you never tested against those other guys that smash you, right?
Yeah.
Like that humbling experience, just like when I go open mat and I roll with those upper belts, if I could survive without getting subbed, I'm doing fine.
Right.
Like I count that as a win.
Right.
Versus you could roll with the white belts and maybe you sub them, maybe you don't, maybe you hold position.
Mm-hmm.
But you should be able to, right? You're the upper belt,
Yeah.
right? Like that's kind of how I look. Like I want to roll with those guys to make sure that I'm still doing stuff correctly, but I still want to roll with the upper belts because that's where my test is.
Right.
Right? Like if I could, we went to open mat last weekend in Concord, and I rolled with the brown belt, and it's hard to get guys my size, right? Like the heavier,
Right.
super heavyweight,
Right.
ultra heavyweight.
Right.
Well, there was a brown belt there, first round, and it was open mat, and it was 10-minute rounds.
Wow, nice.
Yeah, but I was able to pass his guard, and like I isolated his arm, and then I got to the thinking, right? I slowed down and kind of froze, right? Like I got to this position, and then I didn't use it. And afterwards, he's like, that was like, you had really good pressure. You did really, like, your positioning was pretty good. He's all, I was really concerned when you isolated my arm. And I was like, great. Like, I was really concerned that you were going to sweep me. So, but to be able to do little things like that, like I passed this guard. I mean,
yeah, it's just the little wins. Little wins that really add up, and kind of it's all part of that journey, you know. Like, hey, I passed this guard in my upper belt. That's pretty amazing, you know. And so you just build those little blocks and kind of keep creating that fundamentals, and eventually, before you know it, you're like, your goal is not that. Your win is not, oh, I passed this guard. Your win is that you top mounted them and you kimura them, or you choked them, or you armbarred them. So it's just with time, it all comes. And I just tell everybody, like, man, be patient. You know, don't stress about what you're not doing, because your body will just begin to learn it, and then that thinker part of you is gonna kind of go away, and your body will just move. You know, the muscle memory, it'll just go, and just always stick with training. Like I don't know. I wouldn't change it for anything.
Yeah. Like rolling with that guy that day, like I had that in my mind. It was a little win, right? And then he competed this past weekend at Master World.
Yeah.
And he made the podium.
Nice.
And I was like, ooh, I know that guy.
Yeah, that's nice, man.
So
feels good.
Yeah. Like seeing other people successful, and you, like, did I hang with that guy? Not necessarily. You know, I had one good moment in a 10-minute round.
Yeah.
You know, let's not talk about the other 9 minutes and 30 seconds, right? Like, he smashed on me.
Yeah.
I got back, and for like a week, my ribs were sore from the pressure.
Yeah.
You know, so, but testing yourself, I think, is one of the things that, for me, like, I need to be able to do that so that I know that it's functional,
right?
You know,
right?
So,
yeah, definitely.
Outside of jiu-jitsu, what kind of hobbies do you have?
I don't do anything.
I sit in my garage.
It's like bullshit. Yeah, I tend to, like I told you earlier, man, I really just get into things. I just dive into things, and I just put everything into it. And I've done a lot of things. Like, I guess, you know, I at one point owned a brewery here in town, so I thought that was pretty cool. It was like a restaurant. Never owned a restaurant or a brewery in my life. Got into a partnership, worked it out, and here I am now, the owner of that brewery. And you know, it didn't last. We went through a really tough time with the economy. We went through COVID. It was a struggle to make that work, and I think that just this town alone is just, it's tough to be in the restaurant business, period. Right? And I think that anybody will say that. So totally no regrets out of that. The only thing is that, I learned a lot about myself and my limitations. I learned a lot about, like, if you put your mind to something, you could do it. And I said to myself that, I'd like to be a part of this business, and I just made it happen. And, just took that momentum and I applied it to other parts of my life. So right now, my wife and I, she's the primary owner, but she has a barbershop. So we run that. It's nice. It feels good to say that, we're small business owners. I have a strong entrepreneur spirit inside of me that, like, I want to do more things. I do barbecue catering on the side. So we have done, big events, festivals, weddings, so forth. That I don't push too much anymore. It's just something I do for fun, I think, more or less. But there's a lot of things that I'm now being more, I guess, more selective in how I put my time towards things. So right now, it's not so much on like trying to get into another business. It's not that. It's right now, my boys are teens, so 17 and 13. I like to just give them all the attention and all the love and all the time I can. And most of the times they have their faces in their phones, but I'm like, hey, phone's off the table or whatever, and we try to do things. At one point, my oldest son and I were in a dart league, and we went all the way to Reno, and he got so good. He can legitimately just hit like bullseyes, like one after the other. And you'll see we have a dartboard right here, and we play a lot. And he's so good at it, and he has a little bit of like that me in him where once he gets into something, he just goes for it and just wants to be the best at it.
Right.
Not that I'm ever the best, like, what is that saying? Like, jack of all trades, master of none, right?
Yeah.
And that's the thing, just like, I know a lot of things, but I'm not the best at it, and I just have a good time with it. But yeah, we went to Reno and do a little, like, a league, and it was like kind of like a West regional West Coast thing. And he took first place in his division, and him and I did really well as a team, and it was fun. It was fun to just be and like be a part of that little journey with him. And I think we're gonna get back into that. But yeah, other than that, I'm right after that, plays it for everybody. It's so funny. I love it, dude. But we got him a nice camera. He won't use it. He won't use it
until the wheels really fall off that other one, huh? We're good. That thing's hanging.
Oh, you're good. I'm just checking it.
Okay.
Yeah, you're good.
I forgot what I was talking about.
I said, don't forget.
No, so we were talking about competition, I think, and so when I got my black belt, and I feel like it's very, there's still a lot to do with it. And I really want to continue to contribute back to the students and bring up, we have a ton of like young competitors that are so hungry. We recently had a kid who was visiting Mexico, and he competed in Guadalajara. And this kid is so good, man. He just hip tosses everybody, puts them on the ground, top mount, armbar. He's just got a rhythm, And we have a small group of young competitors, and that's where I really want to focus my attention, is just bring them up and give them the best experience that they can have in terms of like what we can do for them. And and it's nice, man. And we just recently promoted Tony to black belt, which is just amazing, man. I'm so excited for him. And so now at our school we have 4 black belts, knocking on the door for a couple more. And any time of the week you come to our class, you're going to run into a black belt, which is huge for this town. This town is so little, and it's still growing, but it's just nice. It's nice to know that we got a lot of experience there. That's cool.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, there's still a lot to do. Still a lot to do, and that's where I'm gonna turn my attention and focus back to that. Just hang out with the family and just take a step back from trying to own a business, I guess. But at the same time, I still have a desire for something like that. I still want to do something, but just not right now. Not right now. So
the barbecue. I'm just gonna ask about the barbecue because you're pretty, like, the time at the brewery. You have a pretty good setup.
Yeah. My brother and I have a trailer smoker. Like, it's huge, And it's fun. Like, it's a science. I think a big part of my personality is like I try to like learn how to do things, and like I want to like reverse engineer it and see how it was like made or how it was done or whatever. Like in owning the brewery, I learned how to make beer. So I'm interested in like now the brewing process, and it's a science too. There's like water chemicals. There's so much to it. You know, there's so much to the process that I love. You know, like you have to ferment the yeast at the right temperature, and you have to add all the right flavors and things like the hops, everything you need to know how to make beer. Like I'm interested in that process. So I'm such a nerd when it comes to things. Like that's why with jiu-jitsu, it was like the endless possibility of like things that can happen, right? You're sparring with somebody who's a different level than you. You're sparring with somebody who's a different body type than you. And on top of that too, you're sparring with somebody who may have even a different mentality than you. And that day, maybe they just had a bad day. You know, maybe they had a good day. Maybe they're feeling good. So it's an infinite amount of possibilities of jiu-jitsu and grappling. And there's so many. So a big part of me wants to know, like, I want to figure those things out. So with barbecue, it's the same thing. You know, there's so much to it. You can apply so many different techniques to different things.
Yeah.
And, you know, I just love to cook a good brisket. Honestly, you know, brisket, I just, that's my thing. So that's my vibe.
Yeah.
So, takes a long time. I enjoy the process. So
All right.
10, 12, 14 hours, whatever it takes. Just let the brisket talk to you.
He's the brisket whisperer.
Quote of the week, let the brisket talk to you.
Yeah, there you go.
But yeah, man, you know, I need to get, maybe make a big barbecue and we'll hang out and just do a little thing. That'd be cool.
Yeah, that'd be dope. So what's your most memorable moment with jiu-jitsu?
I think probably two things that stand out would be winning my first match by submission and just kind of validating that I knew I could do it. And I really had to just persevere through losing so many times. Like not a single win at white belt, not a single win at blue belt. And that's pretty hardcore. Like a lot of times I think people would have just decided to quit. You know, they might have been like, bro, I suck. Like I need to just stop doing this, you know? And there was always that little voice in your head. But I'm quite stubborn. I feel like, you know, I felt like I knew I was learning a life skill, and I was like, I'm just gonna keep going for it. So winning my first match at purple and submitting the guy was like a big moment for me. And then my second big moment was getting my black belt, because for me, I was the first black belt awarded from Professor Savage, and I went from white belt to black belt with him. So I didn't go anywhere else. I did cross train, you know, but I never took any like, you know, consistent classes from anybody else. It was just from him. And I was really like proud of myself to achieve that moment where I got so far in my journey that, you know, he felt that I was ready for a black belt. And so it was good. It was a good moment. I mean, I can go as far as saying that I think I was like the first black belt in Los Banos, other than him. He moved here, but in terms of who started from white to black, I think I can claim that, and it's kind of cool. I don't know anybody else in town that's like a white belt to black belt, you know, jiu-jitsu. So it's a big accomplishment,
especially in town.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. You know, I think it's a big deal. Like totally homegrown, totally from here. You know, small town jiu-jitsu is always our little hashtag, our little motto. And you know, anybody who comes to visit our school, anytime we compete out on the circuit, we've had some adults compete, and
you good?
Yeah.
Okay. So what kind of advice would you have for the older new athlete, or even any new athlete, towards jiu-jitsu?
I think that, you know, just consistency is probably the biggest thing, man. Just show up to the mats, train. Don't ask too many questions about when you're going to get your next promotion. Nobody cares about that. Just come in and enjoy your journey, you know, Hey, make good friends. Build good relationships with those people. You're gonna have, because you never know when you building that relationship with another training partner. Doesn't matter their age, younger, middle, older.
Hmm.
You don't know like what you're contributing to that other person too. So
Right.
you being on the mat is one thing, but you being on the mat and then talking to that other person, maybe they're going through a hard time, maybe they're going through a struggle that you don't know about, but
Hmm.
you building that relationship with them, that's important too. So contributing to it, so being consistency, just be a good human. Um, if you're a big strong guy, don't try to go rip off heads. Everybody's got to go to work on Monday usually.
Yeah.
Most people, nobody wants to hurt anybody, so persevere through that, and stay consistent. If you get a little injury, I mean, I could tell you that one time I dislocated my thumb in class. It was Scott and I. Just to go back really quick on when I started, I probably weighed like about 165, 170 ish, and Scott was always about 195. He's always about 190, 195, and he's pretty strong, right? And then he had his kids in there, Kyle and Kimmy and Cameron, like the little kids, right? They're
Mhm.
little. And so my biggest challenge was just training with Scott because I knew he was stronger, bigger, had more technique. And I would literally, he would just hand it to me every time in the most polite way he could. And I would come back for more, come back for more, come back for more. Well, then another day, not too long after I started, another gentleman started. His name is Mike. And I love Mike, man. He's been there almost since the beginning of my journey as well.
Mhm.
And he's come once a week on Mondays religiously, once a week, every day. That guy's probably like 6'3", roughly, and he weighs probably around 220, 230, but he's muscular. He's a bodybuilder, strong, a little bit older than me. But here we go. Another big, strong guy coming in, just wrecking me. And, but I still came back for more. And I would get little injuries. I get, neck strains and whatever, but just kept going. I never stopped.
Right.
And then the classes grew and they swelled and they shrunk and they swelled and they shrunk and people come and go. And me and Mike were just like those two consistent characters through the story who kept coming. And then, then other people showed up. Like we have Tony showed up and Rito and other people and Jesse, other people showed up. And him and I still consistent. And we both aged, and we both went through different things. Like I actually, had a child and we bought a house and, gone through cars. Like I gone through a couple of jobs. I've gone through things, but all those things, it's like, it's all in the rear view mirror, it's all happened already. So jiu-jitsu was always there. It was always constant. It was a consistent, structured routine for me. And it was nice. And it was very nice. Like, you still built the relationships with people. Of course, now I know like Mike and his family, and we know Tony and his family, and you get to meet people's families, and then you contribute to the kids that are coming up and learning. And so, yeah, if it's somebody coming in new to jiu-jitsu, and it doesn't matter your age, I think just stick with it. If you really want to do it, just stick with it. And there was a point, and I told my wife, I said, I'm going to class on Mondays. Don't ask me to do anything else. That's my day. My day. And she agreed with that. She's like, that's cool. Like I get it. You want your time, and we did it. So yeah, she trained as well. My wife became a blue belt too, and she trained for a long time. She had an injury that took her out of it, but for the most part, she's strong, feisty, tough, and she loved it, man. And she talks about getting back into it, and I hope she does. So we'll see what happens.
That'd be cool.
Yeah, that'd be nice. Definitely.
It's cool to do it with to have that support.
Yeah.
To support each other.
Yeah. I tried to get the kids, my boys, to do it. They weren't into it. Like they tried it, but they weren't just into it, and I just wasn't gonna force it on them. You can't. If it's my passion, I can't force it onto somebody else. So
Right.
it like we love it. We talk about it, but it's not something you could force on anybody. So I really don't talk about jiu-jitsu that much unless somebody asks me about it. That's it. I really don't. Like I go to work, and I mean, maybe some people there, like a lot of people there, don't know I even do it. And if it comes up in conversation, I might like kind of allude to it. And then if it spawns additional conversation, then I'll talk about it. But usually I don't.
Has jiu-jitsu touched your life today? Nope. Well,
I
it's
went from
about
the
to.
jiu-jitsu Bible thumper to like, now I'm just kind of in the shadows, you know, just kind of chill out in the back. And if it comes to me, it comes to me, you know, if not. And if I do get into a conversation, then I really, really want that person to do it. Like I want them to. I think it'd be really good. I think law enforcement, I think they need to do it. I think all law enforcement should be like minimum blue belt, minimum. You know what I mean? Like just train a little bit. You will understand.
I've been on that kick for a little while.
Yeah, you'll see.
I interviewed 2 police officers, like within the last few episodes.
Yeah.
And the one we're talking about, the purple belt at Master Worlds.
Yeah.
He's a police officer.
Oh, okay.
So
yeah,
he won as a blue belt at Master Worlds last year.
And see,
about this year.
And I trust a person in a person of power, in a position of power like he is. I trust that person a little more with you know, his weapons and stuff like that, because I feel like it just, the confidence in the jiu-jitsu gives you. It's like I don't necessarily have to like pull out my weapon and you know, shoot this dude or taser this dude or whatever. I mean, don't get me wrong. Like I've never done law enforcement. I'm not a law enforcement, but just from an outsider perspective and what I know about jiu-jitsu, like I feel like it could be applied in a way that can help the situation, not hurt. And, you know, you and I, we know how to look at somebody and kind of size them up. You and I know how, and if we can close the distance effectively enough to win a situation like that. Why do we know that? Because we've done grappling for so long. We know right away, you know, like when I go out to environments, I want to know who's in my environment. I like to know like what's around me. You know, I like to know like if somebody comes at me, can I like trip them over that chair and then, you know, like I'm running through like random scenarios. I don't know if it's just me, but I think we all do that, right? We all do that. You know, we're like, we like walk in with my boys and my wife and I'm like, okay, am I going to have to protect my family right now?
Right.
Who here is probably going to be, who's going to be that one person? Oh, that guy, he looks pretty strong, you know? But then nothing happens because I'm just like the total, like, I'm just so chill, right? So no confrontations is the goal. But but law enforcement, man, they need to know that. They need to know it. There's a big push out there for them to do it. Somebody needs to, I wish it would just become a law. Like, hey, you gotta go training for a couple years beforehand. Like in boot camp, like they do the post academy. They do some close combat. They do like a little spin-offs of like combatives, I guess, like from military. But the post academy should include like an entire like grappling curriculum in it, you know.
What's crazy is talking to both those guys. The mandated time to train.
Right.
I'm not quite sure if it's a year or 2 years, because one of them said a year and one of them said 2 years. 8 hours.
Oh yeah, no, I believe it.
That's it.
Yeah, I know.
And I'm like, holy shit.
And it comes down to funding, and it comes down to like time, because I remember talking to somebody when I worked here at the city. I knew a lot of the officers and the investigators, and they would do defensive tactics, and they have mats out, and they would be doing like scenarios, right? And I went in there and I just observed, and I was watching them. They're doing grappling, right? But they're not doing anything that I could see that was worth anything. It was like, you know, I would have had that gun already. Like I would have had the gun, and it would be a bad day for you, you know? And the point is, like, it's like the untrained are teaching the untrained. And I think that's actually very bad. I think it's really bad. But it comes down to funding. So the reason I asked them, I said, well, how often do you guys do this? And they're like, oh, well, you know, when the economy is good, we're doing this once a month. I said, oh, okay. I mean, you know, that's not terrible, right? Once a month, you get a couple hours in, you get, you know, all these people together. And then he said, but when the economy, you know, tanked or we don't have funding, we do it like once every 6 months. I'm like, that's not useful at all. Like, what are you even going to learn?
Anything.
What are you going to learn? And it's because outside of certain contracts, it was an overtime situation. So they had to pay people overtime to show up. They were not taking it upon themselves to learn it like on their shift. They couldn't. So anyway, so long story short, they need to find a way to mandate, some kind of training regimen in law enforcement, so like they can just piggyback on what we know and use that in their everyday life, and scope it around the safety of the officer and make sure that they're doing things the right way, not
Right.
How to like manage your distance if you need to, and how to retain your gun if you're attacked, and how to get up when somebody's mounted you or on top of you and striking you or whatever. Those are the things that they should learn. I mean, anybody should learn those things.
Right.
So, yeah.
Yeah, both those officers that I interviewed, both of them work for BJJ Cops. It's a affiliate, they go around and do seminars for law enforcement.
Cool. Okay.
Or law enforcement officers, EMTs, like anybody, first responders.
Yeah, anybody who's in the public safety. Yeah.
So Mario is doing one with the owner of BJJ Cops. They're coming to Napa here in like 3 weeks.
Oh, that's cool.
So there's a seminar coming up for BJJ Cops for all first responders there. And one of the guys, Mario, who I recently interviewed, is law enforcement in Salinas.
Oh, okay.
So he's one of the instructors for that particular class. And then they're going to have another one. I think he was telling me it's in November, and it's going to be at Peninsula.
Oh, in Fresno.
In